Now move to our announcements for the evening. Mayor Burkado, if I could call on you, please. I understand you have a proclamation and a special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. This is Sonia Varani. She is a rising senior at Hoover High School, and we've enjoyed having her here this afternoon shadowing me in the mayor's office, and she's had an opportunity to visit with a number of you today as well at some events that we've had, some different meetings. And so I have asked her to step in and do some of the ceremonial duties that you have as a mayor. We have a wonderful proclamation tonight that I would like to turn this portion of the program over to her.
So, as many of you know, September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and tonight we have Miss Hannah Adams with us, who is an 11-year childhood cancer survivor of stage 3 nephroblastoma. She is also from the Hoover area, and Mayor had the opportunity to meet her during his campaign last August when he went knocking on doors. He is in full support of this proclamation because kids cannot fight cancer alone. Tonight, along with Miss Hannah, here are her mother, Lori Adams, and her sister, Haley Adams. Both have played a vital role in pediatric cancer advocacy, and we thank you both for your support. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read the proclamation?
Whereas childhood cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in children, and whereas 1 in 285 children in the United States will be diagnosed by their 20th birthday, and whereas 46 children per day, or 16,790 children per year, are diagnosed with cancer in the U.S., with 40,000 children on active treatment at any given time. And whereas the average age of diagnosis is 6 years old compared to 66 years for adult cancer diagnoses, and whereas 80% of childhood cancer patients are diagnosed late and with metastatic disease, whereas on average there's been a 0.6% increase in incidence per year since the mid-1970s, resulting in an overall incidence increase of 24% over the last 40 years. And whereas 2/3 of childhood cancer patients will have chronic health conditions as a result of their treatment toxicity, with 1/4 being classified as severe to life-threatening. And whereas in the last 20 years, only 4 new drugs have been approved by the FDA to specifically treat childhood cancer. Whereas hundreds of nonprofit organizations at the local and national level, including the American Childhood Cancer Organization, are helping children with cancer and their families cope through educational, emotional, and financial support. And whereas researchers and healthcare professionals work diligently, dedicating their expertise to treat and cure children with cancer. And whereas too many children are affected by this deadly disease, and more must be done to raise awareness and find a cure. Now, therefore, I, Frank V. Brocado, Mayor of the City of Hoover, do hereby proclaim September 2021 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Hoover, and encourage all Americans to observe Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and support this cause that so deeply impacts families in every community across our country.
Hi, I'm so honored to be here and to be honoring September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. This cause means so much to me and my family because when I was 5.5 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 3 nephroblastoma, which meant that a softball-sized cancerous tumor was enveloping my left kidney. And after chemotherapy, radiation treatment, and surgery to remove the cancerous tumor that was the size of a softball, I was declared cancer-free over 11 years ago. And it became my life mission to help other kids who are going through this disease. I've had the honor to travel throughout the country on behalf of various nonprofit organizations and meet families from all over who are going through this. This so deeply impacts Alabamians and the citizens of Hoover because every 36 minutes in the United States alone, a child is diagnosed with pediatric cancer. There are limited drugs specifically for children diagnosed with cancer to treat it, and there's limited funding for new research to be done. And so having a city proclamation is so important because it's going to increase awareness, and hopefully that's going to build on legislation that will fund research that will ultimately find a cure for pediatric cancer so no child ever has to hear the words, "You have cancer." Thank you all so much for being here today and supporting these causes because kids need you, and we are honored to have you be a part of this cause.
We'll now move into our consent agenda. The consent agenda is put together each meeting for items that are considered to be non-controversial, and I would ask now any members who would wish to have any of the items 6 through 11 removed. If anyone would like one removed, just please speak up. Hearing none, is there any member of the audience who is here to speak on behalf of any of the items number 6 through 11? Okay. Hearing none. Mr. Corley, let's turn it over to you.
Item 6 is the approval of the minutes. Item number 7, Resolution 650521 authorizes Mayor Brocato to enter into an agreement with Theater DNA. Resolution 650621 authorizes Mayor Brocato to enter an agreement with Cost Plus. Resolution 650721 authorizes Mayor Brocato to enter into an agreement with the Cooperative Downtown Ministries. Resolution 650821 authorizes Mayor Brocato to enter into an agreement with HubSpot. And resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Sabre Finance is Resolution 650921.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second for approval of all items on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. We'll move to the regular agenda and begin with item number 12, resolution number 6510-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato to enter into an agreement with Jefferson County Commission.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6510-.
Second. Have a motion and a second. We're privileged tonight to have Commissioner Steve Ammons with us. Commissioner, do you have a presentation to make, or would you like to offer any words on this item?
I wanted to make sure you guys accepted the money first before I bring the actual check.
Okay, I don't think you're going to have an issue with that. We heard a little bit about this on Thursday night at our work session. I understand it's a check to contribute toward the Bluff Park Pavilion. Well, we're very appreciative of that. Any questions from the members on this item? Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Item number 13 is resolution number 6511-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the Cahaba Solid Waste Authority, Disposal Authority, to have the authority to take, perform, administer, and facilitate action on items as set forth in the resolution.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6511-21.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We discussed this item at length on Thursday night. Councilman Middlebrooks did an outstanding job of highlighting the process by which we've been through thus far. But Mr. Rice, welcome you back into town, and I understand you have a report on this item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Dr. Middlebrooks, for covering that ground. We'll pick up with the agreement that's necessary between the city and the Waste Authority, which would authorize the authority to act on the city's behalf as it pertains to waste management services. So in front of you, we have just a few slides to go through so that the council fully understands the service level and the cost now and some comparative information. So right now, our existing service levels, as you all know, as consumers, we get twice a week collection, and that's 2 routes that run citywide, either Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday. We get once a week separate recycling collection where the blue cans go out on Wednesday and they're all collected citywide on that one day. Under our current contract, we have 10 knuckle boom trucks that operate during the week, and we have basically on-demand collection. They do try to run somewhat of a collection route, but typically they're just responding to requests that are put in or reports that we receive. And we have 9 leaf trucks that operate during leaf season to the best of our ability to determine when leaf season is, and that is scheduled collection by zones. The current cost of service right now, based on our last bill with 26,514 households, and this is a combination of single-family residences and some condominium complexes that receive service. This does not include commercial occupancies or apartment units, is $8,062,000 per year for the service that we currently receive. The same service costs under a new contract with the Waste Authority would cost $9,570,827. We are not proposing same service, so let me talk a little bit about that. Costs across the waste industry are escalating, and that's one of the strategies behind forming the Solid Waste Authority, is to try to arrest or possibly reduce the cost that the city pays. If we went through the Waste Authority with the preferred provider or the selected provider and did exactly what we're doing today, we would see a $1.5 million cost increase just to have the exact same service we have today. We're not proposing that, but I wanted to show you that number so you would understand the cost avoidance that we're trying to undertake. The proposed service levels are a little bit different. We would move to a commingled garbage and recycling collection. This is confusing. I know Dr. Middlebrooks has lived with us for many months now figuring all this out. But basically, this would be twice a week collection, and you do not separate your household trash or garbage from your recyclables. Everything goes in the garbage cart and goes out to the curb. The proposed contract would have 3 routes, so the city would be divided up into Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, or Wednesday, Saturday collection. So it's more efficient, they can be more timely, you'll have fewer misses. It's easier for them to double back because they're working on a smaller route on any given day. Rather than trying to collect half the city, they're trying to collect a third of the city on a given day. Commingled collection, again, means all recyclables go in the garbage can. You don't sort them out into a separate can. The proposed contract service level indicates that on the second collection day of every route, all of that waste volume goes to a processing facility, which then, through an automated process that several of us have seen and I've personally visited, it separates out all recyclables, and all of that goes to the commodity market. So where right now we're only able to send plastics 1 and 2 and everything else goes into the landfill, this facility will take plastics 1 through 7. It'll take any kind of paper, fabric, and other waste material and turn it into bundles that are burned for energy. It'll take steel, it'll take aluminum, basically anything that we can produce. It will not accept glass. We still don't have a good solution for glass disposal in this region. And I know that's going to be a big public education effort. Our neighbors in Vestavia Hills have been doing this for 9 months, and they've actually seen a 75% increase in recycled volume. So when people were strictly, deliberately, and intentionally recycling by segregating things and washing them and putting them in the blue can, they were at a certain level of volume. But by going to commingled collection and sending the second half per week of all their volume to this facility, they've increased that by 75%. So that's a pretty substantial jump because you're getting the intentional recyclers and you're getting half of the recyclable material out of everybody's garbage, whether they wanted to recycle or not. I'll stop right there. Any questions about commingled collection before I go forward? I know this is fascinating. Go ahead and ask your questions if you have them. Okay. We would also receive the service of 12 boom trucks operating weekly, so 2 additional boom trucks in the city. And the provider has indicated that they would run 10 routes, and the guarantee is that every house in the city would receive what we refer to as trash, which is limbs, debris, bulky items, couches, refrigerators, mattresses. They would receive that kind of collection service guaranteed once every 10 days. So 10 routes circulating, 2 trucks to run out and take care of problems as they come up. And every household in the city would receive that boom truck service a minimum of once every 10 days. There are some other efficiencies that we're talking about, like having, educating people to put in a My Hoover Connect request when they have a couch or a refrigerator. The neighbors probably don't get too upset if they look at a brush pile for 9 days. They do not want to see your fill in the blank for 9 days. So we're thinking about a way that we could expedite the collection of some of the less desirable aesthetic items that people might put out at the end of their driveway. And this is a significant change, but the proposed service level would include bagged leaf collection. This is another change that some of our neighbors have made. We're one of the very last cities in central Alabama to continue to try to vacuum leaves. We could have a whole separate meeting about the problems with leaf collection, but in a nutshell, nobody knows when the leaves are going to fall. You have to get out the farmer's almanac, figure out the first frost, go out a few days. So every year we try to send out a postcard and we say, here's when we're coming to your neighborhood. And no one has any idea if there will be leaves on the ground on those dates or not. And when the leaves fall in central Alabama, they tend to all fall. So we very optimistically set out 4 collection dates per route. And there's a little bit of fiction in that because you may have 0 leaves on your first collection date. You may have every leaf on your property on your second collection date and none on your third and fourth. And then if it rains and heaven forbid there's a freeze and then the equipment doesn't work and we could go on and on. So you'll see when we look at some other costing information, there is a substantial savings in moving to bagged leaf collection, and the bagged leaf collection would be at no additional cost over the per unit price. The proposed service benefits are that we would have 3 routes rather than 2. Our volume of recycling increases like we talked about. We get 2 additional boom trucks operating citywide. We also have the benefit of de-escalating per unit cost. So as more cities come on board and use the Solid Waste Authority, the vendor that the authority has selected has built in price decreases for existing members as new households come on board. Clearly one of the main benefits and one of the reasons that we created the Solid Waste Authority. And then lastly, we have the potential cost reduction for what's called near city disposal and transfer. So right now, our limbs and our leaves and our household garbage and everything leaves Hoover in the truck that collects it, and it goes to extreme North Jefferson County through downtown traffic, whatever's going on there, wrecks, stalls, et cetera, has to offload directly and then back through downtown traffic to Hoover. So many days we feel like our boom trucks and leaf trucks spend more time driving outside Hoover than they do collecting inside Hoover. Because of the Solid Waste Partnership, we've identified the possibility to do some near city transfer where some of our partners have property that's available. We're pursuing a grant through the Community Foundation of Greater Birmingham for some grinding equipment, and we might be able to make a very short trip from the streets of Hoover, deposit that biologic material, have it ground and disposed of on site, and then the conversation extends to a waste transfer facility that might expedite the transport of the material that's going off to the separating recycling center that we talked about. So let's talk more about money. If we did the proposed service levels and kept the leaf vacuuming service, then our new cost becomes $8,355,425. That's an increase of $293,000 from what we're paying today to go with the new service levels and keep vacuuming leaves. If it also is an increase of $1,185,300 from what we're actually proposing. So I know that's a little unclear. These numbers presume that we do everything I've described on the proposed service level slide, but keep vacuuming leaves. And that's what our cost would be. Our proposed cost, based on the service levels on that previous slide, are $7,170,125, which is a decrease of $891,875. Remember, this is based on the number of household units we have on our last bill. As new units come online, people are annexed in or neighborhoods are built, that cost clearly will go up because we add per unit per month fees. Are there any questions?
Alan, I just want to thank you for a job well done and all the time and effort you've put into this. We have been working on this for a very long time, and you deserve credit for most of this work, so excellent job.
Well, I appreciate that. None of this could happen without our partners in the other cities. We couldn't achieve this by ourselves, and I think that's a strong testimony to this partnership and to several other things that are in the pipeline in terms of regional cooperation.
I do want to point out one thing. I know that you have told me that Amwaste has purchased the existing carts from the current provider. So we will not have to go through the process of switching out our current carts that we're using.
Right, that's correct. When we, well, I think they're in the process of purchasing those carts, but when we did the RFP through the authority, we wanted the shortest possible turnaround time because our agreement expires September 30th. So we were on an aggressive timeline, but we wanted to leave about a 75-day transition period, which we were able to do. But one of the ways to do that was to allow a new provider, not knowing who that might be at the time, to assume the existing carts. So we don't have to have 52,000 carts because everybody's got at least one garbage and one recycling cart. Some have more. But we don't have to pay Amwaste to go out and collect and replace 52,000 carts, and that contributed to a lower per unit cost, and it also gets their service up and running by October 1st.
And for those that are passionate about recycling, so we will keep the gray bin and a blue bin at our
Correct.
home. The first pickup during the week will all go to a landfill.
That's right.
If you wish to keep the recycling out, you can still identify a separate cart, and that be your second week pickup cart.
Right. You could do it one of a couple ways. You could just put out recyclables on your second pickup day. If you're on a Monday, Thursday route, you could put your garbage out on Monday and just recyclables on Thursday, and those recyclables will be reused. Or you could put out garbage on Monday, and you could put out garbage and recyclables on Thursday, and those recyclables will be reused because they're sorted by the facility.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and there'll be a very robust public education effort. That was part of the contract agreement that Amwaste entered into, and we'll obviously have Ms. Posey Joseph and our Public Works Department involved in that, and we'll jointly push out a lot. There'll be mailers and social media. We'll push out a lot of information to residents to help them understand, hey, it's 3 routes instead of 2. These are your new days. Here's how the garbage and recycling works and all those things.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. President, I would just, Alan and the mayor and the staff worked really hard on this, but I would just like to commend Dr. Middlebrooks because I was really skeptical of this. You know, I thought being able to keep the same level of service and actually improve, we know recycling has changed, was worried about costs, and we have a smarter way to do recycling, I think, in a way that's going to increase volume. Leaf pickup wasn't working to begin with what we had before. It was having all sorts of problems with it. So bagging is a little different, but something had to change there. But I was skeptical when I first heard about it. But what's been delivered here is a very comparable package with money savings to boot. And so I'd just like to commend Dr. Middlebrooks on what he's done, reaching out to the other communities and putting this together. So thank you.
Yes, I would certainly agree with you, Mr. Shaw, on that. I was very concerned that, given the current state of recycling, we were in a position where it would be cost prohibitive to provide that service. And not one of us wanted to have to do that. So the creativity and ingenuity that Councilman Middlebrooks, Mr. Rice, and your team has put together to still deliver that service is remarkable and much appreciated. Thank you.
And one more comment I didn't put on the slides, but for frame of reference, the next most viable proposal to the authority would have increased our cost in excess of $10 million a year. And that would have been household garbage and recycling only, no leaf service, no trash service, no dumpster service to the city at that point unless we paid additional costs. So, you know, in any scenario, to keep the level of service we have, the price goes up. In some scenarios, it goes up by many, many millions of dollars.
Remarkable. Any other questions for Mr. Rice from the body? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions or comments from the public? Mr. Schultz.
Robin Schultz on Albemarle Drive. I spent quite some time talking to Dr. Middlebrooks last week about this, and there's, if Mr. Rice could answer a couple questions. One of the biggest complaints that we've had over the last few years is Santec related, and a lot of times there's not much that the city can do about those complaints, except get with Santec and address them, and they are either going to react to it or not. Most of the time, what we found over the last few years, they have not reacted to it, and it gets a little bit on the frustrating side. So Dr. Middlebrooks indicated that with this new agreement, there would be a penalty involved if there were complaints. And if Mr. Rice could address how those penalties would be handled and how they would be enforced, I think that's going to clear up a lot of things with the people that have issues with it. And on a side note, what Mr. Lyda said last Thursday, as we transition from the existing to the new, I remember the 2015 transition, and it was rough. It was really rough. It was the growing pains were tremendous. But I think one of the differences we're going to see here is this is an existing company where Santec was a brand new company at the time. And I'm hoping we don't have those growing pains. But if Mr. Rice could address those, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. President? Yes, sir.
Sir, thank you.
So a couple things. There is a fine structure, and I can't quote the amounts, but I think it's the same structure that we have in our current agreement. So we can impose fines on the new provider if they fail to meet our service expectations in certain examples. But more importantly, this is not a bid, and it's not a contract that we're locked into by bid. So that's the bigger penalty. The bigger penalty is if they fail to perform, we can go find another provider. And we can do that at the point in time that the pain community-wide reaches such a level that we think that that's necessary. There's an example of another CSA member who is doing exactly that. They're getting out of their existing contract to come under this contract because the pain level in their community is no longer tolerable. And then there is a system that this provider uses. It's a 360-degree camera system on every vehicle that they operate. So this will take a little bit of the guesswork out when we do get complaints about miscollection or, hey, my cam was left in the wrong place or whatever. You know, we'll be able to differentiate. We're not going to be able to do it on every single complaint we get. But if we have a residence that repeatedly reports, hey, the can is always left in the middle of my driveway, we're going to be able to determine if it's the garbage men, if it's the wind, if it's your neighbor pulling a prank on you, what's happening and why is your can getting there? Because it's 360-degree video around all of these trucks, and that was a value-added service that Amway's put into their contract. Was there another question about?
I think that was it. Thank you,
Is that
Mr.
it?
Rice.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and a second for approval of the resolution. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 13, resolution number 6511-21. I'm sorry, that was number 13. Let's move to item number 14, resolution number 6512-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance at those properties set forth in the resolution and directs the abatement thereof pursuant to Alabama law.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6512-21.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Mack, I know you're here tonight, and you've presented each of the members with a copy of the photos from the properties. Would you give us a quick update on these, please?
Yes, sir. The photos you have in front of you were all taken today and show the current state, and that we've made notices to everyone, and these are the ones, and I do want you to know that 4 of the properties have been cut and were removed before the list went out. So the ones that you will be seeing tonight are 3476 Sheila Drive, 3033 Lorna Road, 3041 Lorna Road, 2125 Pioneer Lane, and 2127 Shady Brook Lane. Those are the ones that y'all will be voting on tonight. And this is the first hearing for the public nuisance.
Very good. So we're removing, Madam Clerk, 332 Albemarle Drive, 3312 Green Valley Circle, 3406 Flintshire Drive, and 104 Cliffwood Lane.
Yes. Those were cut before the meeting today.
Okay. Any questions from the members?
Mr. President?
Mr. Shaw.
Is this 3041 Lorna Road, is that the one that's going into the house in Montedero?
Yes, both 3033 and 3041 are both have the same situation.
Okay.
So with vines and bamboo, growing into the fence areas.
Right, gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Mack? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 15, Resolution 6513-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the mayor to enter into an agreement with Revere Control Systems, Inc. and Revere 21 Enterprises, Inc. for tax abatements.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6513-21.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We had a great presentation by Mr. Knighton on Thursday evening. He was joined by the CFO of Revere, Jason English, who is back tonight, and also the president and CEO of Revere, Mr. Bob Adams. Bob, good to see you again. Mr. Knighton, I know we had a presentation Thursday. Would you entertain any new questions, or do you have any new information?
No, sir. The information that I provided to you Thursday night still stands, and we're very excited about this project.
Very good. I know Mr. Adams or Mr. English would also welcome any questions or comments. We'll begin first with the council. Any questions or comments from the body? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from members of the public? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 16, ordinance number 21-2536. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance approves the final 10% of the fiscal year 2021 budget for the city of Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance number 21-2536.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adoption of the ordinance. Any questions or comments from the body? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. McClinton?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye, that's 6 ayes, 0 nays. Ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. Item number 17, Resolution 6495-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution is for the abatement of a nuisance due to weeds and/or grass on the property set forth in the resolution.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6495-21.
We have a motion and a second. This item does call for a public hearing, so we will open up the public hearing on this property. And Mr. Martin, I know you're here tonight. Or Mr. Mack's back with us. Mr. Mack, any updates on this item?
Yes, this has actually been removed. It was cut. So the property, it was taken care of and is removed from tonight, so.
Very good. Having heard that, we will entertain a motion for withdrawal.
Mr. President, I move to withdraw resolution number 6495-21.
I have a motion and a second for withdrawal. Any questions from the members? Any from the public? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Item number 18, Resolution 6491-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution is to allow a conditional use for used automobile sales on the property located at 2970 Lorna Road, Zone C2 Hoover, for Birmingham Luxury Motors.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6491-21.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We had a great discussion on this item Thursday night. I know Mr. Beard is here tonight, the landowner and the seller of the property. Mr. Martin, anything to add beyond what we talked about Thursday night?
Nothing to add. The conditions are included in the exhibit on this resolution, and we recommend favorably with those conditions.
Thank you, sir. This does require a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing and ask if there are any questions or comments from the membership. Are there any questions or comments about this case from members of the public? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 19 is Resolution 6492-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution approves a conditional use to allow for a billiard hall at 1901B Hoover Court, which is zoned Hoover C2 for Janet Arledge.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6492-21.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Martin, I see that Ms. Arledge is here again. Welcome back. Mr. Martin, anything to update us on since Thursday?
No, sir. The conditions are included in the exhibit, including the revised condition that you guys considered at the first reading, altering the operational hours to where they could remain open until 12 a.m. during the week and Sunday night, and 2 a.m. Friday night and Saturday night.
Very good. This item does require a public hearing, so we will begin by opening the public hearing and asking if there's any questions or comments from the body. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public on this item? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and call for a vote. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nays? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Item number 20, Resolution 6493-21, Mr. Corley.
This resolution approves a conditional use in 1901B Hoover Court to allow for prepackaged alcoholic beverages, beer, wine, and spirits at Zone Hoover C2. Janet Arledge representing.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6493-21.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Martin?
No changes since our work session on Thursday night. This application and conditional use also includes the exhibit with conditions, again, including the condition of the adjusted hours we mentioned before.
Very good. We will open the public hearing and ask if there's any questions or comments from the members. Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 21, resolution number 6504-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution approves an alcohol license for Red's Lucky Break LLC doing business as Axe House Billiards at 1901B Hoover Court, Hoover, Alabama. Janet Arledge, executive.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6504-21.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Martin or Ms. Dickerson, anything new on this item?
There isn't anything new.
No,
Very good.
Mr. President.
We reviewed it with the police chief or the police representative on Thursday night. Any questions or comments from the members? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Ms. Aldridge, thank you very much for your investment. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Item number 22, resolution number 6494-21, Mr. Corley.
This resolution approves a conditional use to allow for an indoor swimming pool at 5549 Grove Boulevard. It's zoned Hoover PC, and Tim Gilbride is the representative.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6494-21.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Martin, any new updates?
No new updates. The conditions are included in the Exhibit 2 on the conditional use application that is before you. The two conditions, one relating to the removal of materials from the site, and two, that they would comply with pool safety requirements imposed by city codes and ordinances. So no additional updates.
We'll now open the public hearing and ask, are there any comments or questions from the membership? Hearing and seeing none, we'll now ask members of the public if they have any questions or comments.
No, excuse me.
Oh, no.
I'm good. I'm Tim. I thought that I've talked to Mac before, so I'm good.
Are you the property owner? Or?
The owner, right.
Good deal. Okay, thank you, sir. Hearing and seeing no questions or comments, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second for approval of the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Mr. Tim, congratulations. Thank you. We'll now move to first readings for 3 different resolutions and set public hearings for these items to be held on August 16th, 2021. We'll begin with item number 23, Resolution 6498-21. Mr. Corley.
This resolution approves a conditional use allowing a drive-through for Takala LLC at 1553 Montgomery Highway, and the representative is Takala LLC.
Mr. Martin, I know we had a presentation on this Thursday night. With it being the first reading, we'll hold off to the second reading for any changes that may occur between now and then, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Item number 24, resolution number 649621, Mr. Corley.
This resolution approves a conditional use allowing for a drive-through for Jack's Family Restaurant LP at 3429 Lorna Road. It's currently zoned Hoover PC.
And item number 25, resolution number 649721, Mr. Corley.
This resolution would approve a conditional use allowing for a drive-through for Foresight Properties LLC at 2071 Patton Chapel Road. Foresight Properties LLC representing.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the end of our agenda.
Mr. President, I think we do need to make an amendment to that last resolution.
Okay.
Do you want to do that now?
We can certainly do that.
Okay.
This is the, okay, yes, thank you. We did talk about this Thursday night. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. We need to amend to something that came out of planning and zoning for the first reading. Mr. Shaw, do you want to go over that?
Sure, I know during the planning and zoning meeting, one of the conditions, it's a unique concept because it's only drive-through, but there are going to be tables there and the parking is limited there. So the solution was to create a maximum number of employees per work shift, but I believe that's not going to work for the applicant anymore and they want to shift it to number of tables, correct, Ms. Martin?
That's correct. We found out in the interim between the planning commission meeting and our work session Thursday night that having a maximum capacity placed on the number of employees was not going to be workable by the franchise. The franchise would not sign off on that. So in working with the applicant, who is here represented this evening, we've determined that it would be appropriate from staff, and we would recommend this alteration, that rather than having as condition 1 a maximum of 9 employees per work shift on site during hours of operation, substitute that with a maximum of 16 seats for the outdoor dining area. We feel like between the employment load, the number of employees on site as represented to staff by the applicant, and the 16 seats as a cap on the outdoor dining, the Institute of Transportation Engineers recommends 1 parking space per 2 seats. So that gives us 8 seats. In total, we think with that condition, the 20 parking spaces on the site will be sufficient. And we have the owner here. If you'd like any remarks from them or acknowledgement that they agree with this change, I'm sure they can give it.
All right. Yeah, and so it makes sense, this being a drive-through, you're more likely to need staff than people sitting. So, so just to confirm, if we modify this, we'll be striking item number 1 and replacing it with a maximum of 16 seats in the outdoor dining area.
That's correct.
All right. Mr. President, do you mind if I make a motion on that?
Do we need to vote on that because it's a first reading? Can we just audibly?
I would make a motion to amend the resolution for the
Okay.
purpose of the first reading, and then we would vote on it at the next meeting.
Very good. Yes, sir, please.
All right, Mr. President, I would amend resolution number 6497-21 to strike the first item in Exhibit 2, dealing with a maximum of 9 employees, and replace it with a maximum of 16 seats in the outdoor dining area.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or clarifications from the members on that item?
And I guess now that I've made the motion, just to confirm with the applicant, that's acceptable.
Yeah, I was going to ask the applicant to give us a head nod. I see a head nod in agreement. That's acceptable? Okay.
Let the record note the head nod.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second for amendment of the resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Councilman Shaw. Thank you, Mr. Martin. We'll have a second reading on that and a potential vote on August 16th. Now that brings us to the end of the regular agenda, and we'll ask for any questions or comments from the members. Hearing none, we will now open it up for comments from the public. Yes, sir. Come on down if you'll give us your name and address, please. Welcome to the Hoover Council.
My name is Matt Daniels. I live at 121 Pine Rock Lane. You may remember I was in here about a month ago regarding the pet suites. Particularly, there was 2 issues that we were dealing with. One was the trash pickup with dumpsters being slammed on the ground basically at 5 a.m. pretty much every Monday morning. The second being that lights were supposed to be turned off after 10 p.m. and they're staying on all night. Last I heard, they still don't have any method of actually turning them off. They're basically controlled with a solar panel. At that meeting, I was put in touch with a gentleman by the name of Robert Mack, who I was able to speak to one time. I have not been able to get a hold of him since, although I have called several times. During our conversation, he mentioned that there was an ordinance already for the entire city of Hoover regarding trash pickup, and that y'all were having issues in the Lorna Road area as well. To kind of give a perspective of what we're dealing with over on Pine Rock Lane, last week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we had trash pickup of various businesses all right around the 5 o'clock hour, all with dumpsters being slammed on the ground. Obviously, we can't sleep through that. So at this point in time, I was kind of hoping that maybe there might have been some updates on this that I could kind of follow up on. Are there any penalties for these businesses that are in violation of the this ordinance. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that when I was speaking to the manager over at Pets Suites early on, probably about 4 months ago, when he was speaking to the trash company, they mentioned to him that there were no ordinances within the city of Hoover, and that may actually be the root of this problem. If the trash companies are unaware that there is an ordinance, then, why would they be waiting till 7 o'clock to pick up the trash? So maybe the solution, instead of reaching out to the individual businesses, is instead to reach out to the trash pickup companies, remind them that there is an ordinance, remind them what the penalties are, and set a date for them to correct the issue. Not only would that take care of the issue in our area, it would also take care of the issue in the Lorna Road area. And I imagine, I can promise you, it will make a lot of your citizens very happy if this can get resolved.
Very good. Thank you. That's great feedback. I know when he was here last time, we agreed to take a look at the conditions on the property. Mr. Rice, is that still Mr. Martin? Okay.
I can provide a bit of an update. So yes, we not only related to the garbage pickup, not only have a city ordinance that deals with that particular time frame. They should not be picking up commercial garbage before 7 a.m., but we also have it included in the conditions that were placed on the approval of that use for that site, that the garbage collection times would be constrained to the daylight hours. I know that we have had, as the gentleman mentioned, some other instances of complaints coming in related to the commercial garbage pickup, and we have attempted to reach out. It's Republic that is the common thread between these sites. They are running their routes as early as 3 a.m. to pick up the commercial garbage. We've reached out to Republic. The response has not been very good from their office, their corporate office. We've actually had, with the help of the police department, some interaction with the drivers and trying to get them to adjust the time frame. I know that the police officers that were out at the 3 o'clock hour, they actually had contact with the gentleman who was picking up on the Lorna Road properties. We asked that that be adjusted, and they said they'd comply. The pickup times were a little more palatable for about a week or two, and now we're right back to where we have pickup times in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. for that location, as well as really too early for this site as well. So, and as far as the lighting goes on this particular case, we've reached out to the gentleman, the attorney that was representing the applicant through the conditional use phase, and we've also created a case in our code enforcement sector of our department to follow up and see if we cannot get that remedied. So we do have a process underway to try to address these issues. We are having a little difficulty in getting Republic to adjust their time frames and going out and collecting commercial refuse. I will thank the police department for assisting us in making contact with somebody at Republic. That has been a positive development in the time interim. But we are still working on both of those issues.
Mr. President, if I may,
Sure.
I also reached out to the attorney that represented the case and spoke with, he got the national facilities manager that manages all the facilities to contact, and there was some back and forth, making sure they had the complete list of conditions. So I'll follow up with them tomorrow, and I think y'all might have been in contact with her as well. So we'll on the lighting issue, I think it got lost in the shuffle, which shouldn't have happened, but we're going to get some attention on it pretty quick.
That's correct. We did send the complete list of conditions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any other questions or comments from the public? Come on down.
Hello, my name is Ron Nesbitt, and this is Kathy Bertanzetti, and we're two of the homeowners along Creekview Drive, and we had sent a letter to the mayor and the council about 3 or 4 weeks ago about the flooding problem that we've been increasingly experiencing there. Like, we had a major flood on May 11th and again on June 23rd. And my house at 2644 Creekview is sort of the low ground there. And we literally had Patton Creek like inches away from the water entering the back of our house. And I had to put sandbags up and everything else. And this problem's gotten progressively worse over the years. But we did want to thank the city engineering department and the city of Hoover because Keith McKay and Chris Reeves reached out to us. They came to our street and met with all the homeowners last week. They explained what Hoover is doing with the phase 1 plan that I guess just wrapped up with Shoal Engineering. And there's going to be a second phase of that, like the water problem and flooding problem in Hoover that Shoal will be doing and will be included in phase 2. So we're optimistic and grateful that Hoover's taking action on that. So really wanted to, thank the city and thank the engineer for coming out so quickly. They're both knowledgeable. They're both very helpful. They spent a lot of time with us. So we are appreciative of that. And now I'm going to let Kathy speak for a few minutes because she lived along the street for about 35 years. So she's seen it all.
My name's Kathy Burtonzetti. I'm married to David Burtonzetti, and we've lived there actually 37 years, and we love our home. And every time we have these floods that aren't really 100-year floods, we talk about where we're going to move, and we don't want to move. All our families, we go from each other's properties when anybody's in any trouble at all. We all know each other, and we're all scared. Our first neighbor, as you come over the bridge on Creekview, Dan's a paraplegic. Now it's my routine when we have these floods where their houses are literally surrounded by water like moats. I go out and I go see who's in trouble and whether I need to call the fire department. Last week, his mother-in-law, she's Russian, she speaks no English. A policeman was coming down the road, I flagged him down. Her daughter, Larissa, couldn't get in touch with her on the phone. We didn't know if she needed a rescue or not. So the policeman stopped, he helped me. She ended up coming out, but we're scared. We are so scared. And people stop me and my neighbors and say, is there a house for sale? We love our area. We just don't want to lose it. We want to work with y'all so we can sustain our homes. Thank you.
Thank you both for attending and for your kind comments. Our engineering staff are true professionals, and like you said, they are certainly on this case and evaluating what options we may have, so you'll be hearing more. Thank you both. Any other questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, we are adjourned.